Before the Great Pyramids touched the sky, before the Sphinx stared into eternity, Egypt was not one land, it was two. In the south, along the winding path of the Nile, was Upper Egypt, cliffs and narrow valleys. In the north, where the river fanned out to meet the Great Sea, was Lower Egypt, a green, fertile delta. For centuries, these two lands had their own rulers, their own gods, their own ways of life. They were neighbors, sometimes friends, sometimes enemies. But they were separate. The dream of a single, powerful Egypt, a united kingdom from the southern cataracts to the northern shores, waited for a hero. This story begins more than 5,000 years ago, around 3100 BC, the Early Dynastic Period. A great leader was needed to bring the two lands together. That leader was a king from the south, Menes, Narmer. He would become the first pharaoh of a united Egypt. Who was this man Narmer before he became the great unifier? The sands of time have hidden many of his secrets, and we must be honest about what we do not know. The concept of a detailed biography, as we know it today, did not exist in his time. Yet, the archaeological evidence gives us powerful clues. We are almost certain that Narmer came from the south, from Upper Egypt. He was a ruler of a powerful city called Hierakonpolis, Nekhen in the ancient tongue. This city was a thriving center of power and worship long before Egypt was united. It was a place where the falcon god Horus, the deity of kingship, was revered, a god whose power Narmer would carry with him. From this southern stronghold, Narmer likely inherited a kingdom that was already strong and ambitious. His ancestors, rulers of what we call Dynasty Zero, had already been expanding their influence northward. They were warriors, skilled administrators, slowly consolidating their power along the southern Nile. Narmer was not just a random warlord, he was the heir to a growing dynasty, a prince raised with the belief that it was his destiny to rule. He learned the arts of war, the duties of religious ceremony, and the skills of governing a kingdom. Of all the treasures we have uncovered from this ancient time, one object tells the story of Narmer more powerfully than any other. It is a magnificent ceremonial shield-shaped slate known as the Narmer Palette. Discovered by archaeologists in his home city of Hierakonpolis, this single piece of stone, just over 2 feet tall, is perhaps the most important historical document ever found in Egypt. It is not written with words, but with pictures. It is a masterpiece of early art that depicts, with stunning clarity, the very moment of unification. When I hold a replica of this palette in my hands, I can feel the power and the drama of that long-ago event. A story frozen in stone for all eternity. On one side, Narmer is shown as a powerful figure, larger than everyone else. He wears the white crown of Upper Egypt, a tall, conical headdress symbolizing his southern origin. In his hand, he raises a stone mace, ready to strike a kneeling enemy. This enemy is a captive from the north, representing the defeated people of the delta. Above the captive, the falcon god Horus is shown holding a rope tied to a human-headed landmass from which papyrus plants grow, the symbol of Lower Egypt. On the other side, he appears in a victory parade, now wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt, and below, two mythical beasts intertwine, a potent symbol of unification. The unification of Egypt under Narmer was not a single event, but a process. The Narmer Palette gives us the image of a final, glorious victory. But that victory likely capped a long, difficult campaign. It involved military battles, clever diplomacy, and strategic marriages. Evidence suggests he married a Lower Egyptian princess, Nithotep. Her name honors Neith, goddess of Sais. That marriage would help legitimize his rule in the north. Imagine Narmer's army, southern soldiers marching and sailing down the Nile to subdue small kingdoms and delta chiefdoms. But conquest alone doesn't build a lasting nation. He founded a new capital, Memphis, at the junction of Upper and Lower Egypt, the White Walls, the heart of the kingdom. Placing the capital there physically and symbolically bridged the two lands. Narmer needed to project overwhelming power to deter rebellions. He also had to be king for all Egyptians, adopting northern symbols and honoring northern gods. He absorbed Lower Egypt, creating a dual royal identity. This mix of force and diplomacy was Narmer's genius, the key to forging a kingdom that endured for millennia. With two lands now under his control, Narmer needed a new symbol to represent his new status. He could not simply wear the white crown of the south or the red crown of the north. His solution was brilliant. He combined the two crowns into one. This new combined crown was called the Shent, or the double crown. It was an unmistakable statement. He was king of the two lands, united as one. The double crown became the ultimate symbol. Every pharaoh from Djoser to Cleopatra wore it. When you see a king's statue or a temple carving with the Shent, you see Narmer's legacy. He established royal regalia that defined kingship for thousands of years: the mace, the crook, and the flail. The crook symbolized care and guidance, the flail, provision and prosperity. Together, nurture and command. Narmer's name appears inside a cerec, crowned by Horus, the king as the god's living embodiment. He was not just a man, he was a god-king, a bridge between heaven and earth. These symbols, crowns, regalia, and divine name, formed a timeless image of pharaoh. After the unification, Narmer's task shifted from conquest to governance. He had to build the infrastructure of a state for a vast and complex territory. Later writers say Menes diverted the Nile to found Memphis. If exaggerated, the project was still monumental. Founding a capital required immense resources and organization. As king, Narmer maintained Ma'at, order, truth, and justice, through ritual and rule. The gods would grant the flood, fertility, and protection. A cylinder seal shows him receiving captives, both power display and religious offering. His administration organized agriculture, collected taxes, and funded temples and tombs. Marked jars carried wine, oil, and goods, found in Egypt and the southern Levant. He forged early international trade routes. Life cycled through justice, administration, festivals, and preparations for eternity. He created the blueprint for what it meant to be a pharaoh. How do we know all of this about a king from 5 millennia ago? We cannot read his diary. We act as detectives, piecing clues from the ground. Archaeology is our most important source. Hierakonpolis, Abydos, Nakata. The Narmer Palette is the most famous example, but not the only one. A carved mace head shows another ceremonial moment, perhaps a wedding or festival. His name appears on jars, ivory labels, and stone vessels across the land. These finds map the extent of his influence. Later texts, like the Turin king list, begin with Menes, first human king after the gods. Herodotus credits Menes with founding Memphis. Most scholars now equate Narmer with Menes, though debate continues. Archaeology, inscriptions, and later texts each give a piece of the puzzle. The picture grows clearer with each discovery pulled from the sacred sands of Egypt. Like all mortals, even a great king like Narmer had to face death. Manetho wrote that Menes ruled 62 years and was killed by a hippopotamus, a likely legend about chaos. In reality, we do not know how or when he died. We do have his tomb at Abydos, the royal cemetery of Egypt's first kings. Designated B17-B18, it consists of 2 adjoining mud brick chambers. Modest by later standards, yet grand for its time. It was a house for eternity, stocked with what he would need in the afterlife. Here his body was protected, his spirit free to journey on. Seals in and around his tomb name his successor, Hor-Aha, a direct chain of succession, proof of stability. The kingdom did not collapse, it continued and grew. The death of Narmer marked the end of the beginning, his legacy secured in a strong, unified state. The legacy of Narmer is the legacy of Egypt itself. He stands at the beginning of 30 dynasties, the first link in a 3,000-year chain. Every crowned king, every scribe, every builder lived in the world he created. He is the George Washington of ancient Egypt, the founding father. The state he founded, a large territorial kingdom with divine kingship and bureaucracy, influenced the wider world. His symbols became a universal archetype of strong leadership. Without the palette and patient archaeology, Menes would remain a mythic name. The evidence reveals a real man of vision and will. When you see the Great Pyramids or the Golden Mask, remember it began with Narmer, the leader who dreamed unity and made it real. It is an epic of power, ambition, and creation. And Egypt still has secrets to reveal within the sands of time.